welcome to another episode of Deck Musings. So, I suppose you could say it's a bit different in this episode. I decided to slightly, I don't know if there's any rules to this episode, but we started off here deliberately because that's when the new construction rules were applied. However, I did stumble across a deck which I wanted to cover, which was first introduced around this period, actually just before it. I was thinking about covering it when we get to 98, because it is on the list here. I wonder if you can guess what it is. But it had already cropped up at Pro Tour Paris, and it's this deck, the Prosperous Bloom deck. And it was the deck that Mike Long used to win the Pro Tour Paris in April 1997, along with some very contentious bluffing. And I'm going to include a link to that particular final in the description, so you can actually watch this particular deck in action and all of the controversy that surrounded that particular match. So there's the final. So Pro Tour Paris was the first Pro Tour held outside the US. The final was between Mike Long and Mark Justice. Mike Long won. And this is part of the contention, I suppose. So eventually Mike Long won the match, and as you'll see, because of the way the combo deck is constructed, he'd actually got himself into a position where he actually couldn't win, but he managed to convince Mark Justice to concede anyway. The other interesting thing, it was block constructed, Mirage and Visions. So let's just look back at this first page here. So this is where we've been, but for this episode we're here. We're here. And notice what's interesting about this back at this point in Magic's history. Can you sort of see here? So we've got some weird rotations going on. So we've still got alliances kicking around. We've got Mirage Visions, 5th edition, which is actually a core set between the release of the final small set of the Mirage block, which didn't happen till here. So you can see, for various reasons, there's all sorts of strange standard standard composition. I mean, if we go back, you can see it was never really, it was always a little bit all over the shop, like legal sets that were legal in standard. But the thing is, for this particular event, it was block constructed, but the block at that point comprised of Mirage and Visions, because there was no Weatherlight at this point. And what I've done is in Architect, I've deliberately included the version of the card from Mirage and Visions, because I don't know, 5th edition, see, April 23rd, I'm not sure of the exact date of that. That was just before it. So yeah, my point is that 5th edition actually contains some reprints of cards that were in the block as well. But for this episode, just got the Mirage and Visions artwork, because I thought that was more realistic to what was around at that time. So let's have a look at the Prosperous Bloom deck, and I'll try and explain it. It's a combo deck. You'll notice there are absolutely no creatures. Now the win condition, or the card that you're going to get rid of your opponent with, is drain life. So 1 on a black. For each black you spend in addition to the casting cost, drain life deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Gain 1 life for each 1 damage dealt, but not more than the toughness of the creature or the life total of the player. Drain life damages. So the idea is you're going to target the player, and you're going to target them with a massive amount, a ludicrous amount of damage. So you can see you're going to need an awful lot of black mana to do that. And so there is a combo in here that facilitates that. Now there's roughly 4 parts to the deck. There's mana producers, and if we go back to the top, I'll sort of work down so you can see we've got Cadaverous Bloom and Squandered Resources, which are both enchantments. So with Cadaverous Bloom, 3 black, green to cast. Choose a card in your hand and remove it from the game. Add double black or double green to your mana pool. Play this ability as a mana source. So you can see there, once you get round to needing to cast your drain life, that's where the black mana, or one possible source of the black mana. We've got a Squandered Resources, which is black and green, another enchantment. So these are sitting in play. At least that's what you want. You sacrifice a land, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type the sacrificed land could produce. Play this ability as a mana source. So again, if you want that to contribute to your drain life, that's got to be a source of mana, or it's got to be black that it produces. So looking down, what else have we got here? I'm going to do multiple sweeps that can potentially generate mana. Well, we have our actual mana base. So we've got a bad river. So that it's actually a sack land. So you search your library for an island or swamp card, put that land into play, shuffle your library afterwards. So it doesn't really generate black mana. It searches for it. But you need some sort of fixing in here because you're playing three colours here. However, Undiscovered Paradise can generate any colour. So you could sack that to generate black. You could sack swamps to generate black to your Squandered Resources. But of course, if you're using it to help you cast other cards that are part of the combo, then it might not be the case that you want to generate black mana. There's our drain life. Anything else here that specifically generates mana? I mean, you've got cards here that affect or have an impact on mana generation. And there's a sideboard, which we'll get onto in a moment. You'll notice that some of these items just increase the count slightly of other cards that are already in the deck. So sort of reinforce the parts of the deck. So then we've got the whole card drawing thing as well. That's the second part, the card drawing. So it's got some utility there. So we've got an impulse here. We have so we'll come back to that because that's some of these is a bit of crossover between different types of cards. I've actually got a way of getting cards back There's some card draw there. There's some card draw there, Prosperity. That's part of the, that comes, also contributes to the name. So Prosperous Bloom, or Pro Bloom. Then we have card selection. So you can start to see, we've been through multiple times, what those cards might be that help with the card selection. So if we go back up, so we've got straight out tutors like this, but then we've got these cards like Impulse and Three Wishes, which are helping with the card selection. And then we have prevention cards. So, Emerald Charm, we've got counter spells. And then obviously again, some counter spells, some prevention cards in the sideboard. And then certain cards to deal with certain, threats that might be in the meta, or might make the deck perform better against a certain matchup. So how does the deck go off? Because you're not going to kill with creatures. Well, it's through the kill with drained life ultimately, but that requires you to generate a ton of black mana. So initially, when you're in a position where you've assembled your combo of cards that you need to go off, you need to obviously generate as much mana as possible, and you can do that using Cadaverous Bloom, Squandered Resources, or both. Obviously, you might be generating mana conventionally as well in doing that, and you're then going into a card like Natural Balance. But alongside, if you've got like a ton of mana, you can then start to leverage your card selection cards and pull in certain cards. What you want to happen is you get to a position where you can cast a very, a large Prosperity, which will then draw you certain key cards, and you sort of rinse and repeat with the Prosperity and the other cards until you get yourself into a position where you can generate the sufficient amount of black mana you need to completely drain your opponent's life down. And you're going to generate that through these enchantments plus any black mana that might happen to remain, because don't forget, a number of these cards you're sacrificing your mana base as well. But you have to notice that there is a single drain life. So, sort of do or die. You can get yourself into some interesting positions with this deck. And, you're probably aware of there's lots of different ways you can lose the game. But one way is to, if you are required to draw more cards than are left in your library, and you draw those remaining cards, you lose the game the next time a player would receive priority. So there we have it. Hopefully I've explained that reasonably well. There's lots of resources online. I'll include a link that maybe explains in a little bit more detail exactly how the deck goes off, and I'm hoping that's given you a pretty good idea of what to expect before we just start to get onto the usual thing with this episode and look at what rabbit holes we can go down by looking at these different types of card. You'll also notice all the cards come from Tempest or Visions, but of course part of that was because that particular event was block constructed, and that was what was in block at the time. This combo is something that I don't really have a lot of interest in playing, but I thought it'd be interesting to do an episode that features it, because the nice thing is the card selection in here is going to be so different from what we've been looking at before. We've got no creatures in here at all. Obviously, we're going to see similar control cards, permission cards, however you want to think about them. In this, it's like prevention cards that we've sort of similar or the same as what we've seen before. So start where we should start. Let's look at and appreciate the artwork that was on offer if you chose to use the artwork that was in Mirage. I do particularly like the swamps in the set, actually. I was trying to think what my favourites are. I quite like this artwork. I think the forests are probably my least favourites. This is a particularly nice island artwork, I think. And then we've got the plains and the mountains. I do like this plains artwork as well. It's a bit of a classic, I think. Okay. So I think we've looked at this cycle before, actually. So these lands, they come into play tapped, you sack them, and you search your library for a particular card, particular type of land card, in this case island or swamps. So let's just see, so the Mirage Fetch Land cycle. And Bad River, Floodplain, Grasslands, Mountain Valley, Rocky Tar Pit. Seen these before, I think. So I don't know how much let me just see what else we've got here, because this is Tutor Land to Battlefield. What comes up there? Okay, a number. Oh, of course, the panoramas. Yes. See, that was a slightly different way of doing it. So let's have a look at those. Actually, I don't think I've spoken specifically about the panoramas. So I'm going to do that. So with these, you tap to add colourless mana, and then it's 1 and tap, sacrifice it, and then you go find a basic forest, plains or island card, so that's 3. I don't know if, let's have a look, is first printing, is that different artwork? Looks the same. Cool. So I've done a bit of an artwork rabbit hole there. Yeah, you can see the difference between slightly more powerful cards, how they manifest themselves. But of course, at that point, it would have been block constructed for that particular event, so there was a limit on what particular non-basic land you had for mana fixing. That's always an interesting card, like Ghost Quarter. Because you can use it, you can Ghost Quarter yourself. So I love cards that do that, where in a pinch you can use it on yourself. Obviously you're blowing up one of your lands to do that, but you know, if you desperately need a different land, then yeah, you can use that to your advantage. It's got to be a basic land. And notice as well here, again, yeah, something to pay attention to with these sort of sack lands. Yeah, what are they actually targeting? So you can see here it's mentioning specific basic lands. But see, the wording on these is quite different for the Mirage ones. It's searching for a forest or plains, so not a basic forest or not a basic plains. Same with the other cards in that particular cycle. Undiscovered Paradise. So let's have a look at the Scryfall triggers. Bounce Self. Yeah, this is something we've looked at before. If you apply it specifically to lands, we'll probably have some stuff come up from other episodes. Again, you know, I love it how in these episodes you get stuff come up that you just forget about, ignoring the fact that this has come up in a previous episode, but you know what I mean. So there's stuff like this, you know, comes into play tapped. 1, tap it, sacrifice your land for a basic land card, put it into play tapped. So, yeah, not dissimilar there to the panoramas, actually. Oh no, sorry, not, yeah, sorry. Yeah, actually, no, that's a combination, isn't it? It's like a combination of the business with the panoramas, where you're paying 1 to actually do the searching, but this one gets bounced back to your hand. So there's this weird thing. So instead of it being sacked, it's bounced. You know, you're filtering for a search, if that's the right word, but it comes into play tapped. So it's like this hybrid of several different types of land. Obviously at the time, I mean, you know, I suppose I'm thinking again, thinking of more recent cards. That's the trouble when you're doing this. So I find it difficult not to do that, to like put yourself back at that period in time and think, yeah, what did come before? There's another interesting, this one, Ghost Town. So, colourless mana, and you can just bounce it back to your hand. But only during another player's turn. But if someone's completely wrathing the board, like everything, you can, well, except you, I suppose, and you're blowing up lands as well as part of that. It's interesting, does the term wrath specifically just apply, I mean, obviously it's from Wrath of God, but does it only apply to where you're blowing up creatures? Or does it apply to when you're just blowing up everything? I'm trying to remember the card that specifically does that, actually, that just everything gets blown up, all your permanents. Cadaverous Bloom. So, pretty high casting cost here. 3 black, green. choose a card in your hand and remove it from the game. Add double black or double green to your mana pool. Play this ability as a mana source. I find, even though I don't, haven't really played combo decks, I don't know if at all actually in anger. I've looked at them because they fascinate me, but it does fascinate me as well, is that when you think about the meta generally, like obviously some metas must be more conducive to the presence of any type of combo deck, based on things like the speed of the format, the prevalence of certain disruptors, which will particularly I suppose in blue, like counter spells, or even just cheap spells that blow up enchantments, I suppose, if it happens to be something that's built around. So anything that threatens the type of card that the combo piece is, or the fact that you might be in an environment where how complicated is your combo versus how fast is the format, and stuff like that. So ramp. Probably going to get a ton of stuff here, so maybe I need to think about that differently if I'm curious about this. What is it actually doing? So it's choose a card in your hand and move it in the game. And I'll tell you what, let's look at other enchantment ramps. That would be a good starting point, wouldn't it? Interesting things here, like this one untaps all your lands, so interesting ways that mana can be ramped. So we've got some here that, what would you call it, like even up, or just give you more land so you can then tap for mana. Here we've specifically generating mana, so I suppose what I should do is to look at cards that specifically mention mana. Carpet of flowers there. Is first printing, our old friend. I should really do what I normally do here. I've got 62 cards. What's the white, black, red, green? What about the multicoloured stuff? Because it is a multicoloured card. Oh, then you've got things like Mirori's Wake. There's our Squandered Resources. That you're sacking land out. And then of course there's these auras that sort of sit on top of lands. Yeah, quite a few of those. But what's interesting is you'll notice, at least as far as the tagging goes, there's nothing like tagged up as being better or worse or similar. Interesting artwork. What's the... Yeah, it's only ever been in Mirage. And then Squandered Resources, only ever in Visions. Mana producer, free sacrifice outlet land. Okay, what else have we got? Of course, there's going to be other permanents that you can sack land to. It's army ants. Good old crop rotation. But a lot of this, you're just exchanging one thing for another. Oh, dredge, sacrifice a creature or land, draw a card. When did that appear? Invasion. Maybe that's better. Interesting. What's the place across all lands you control? Lands you control have tap, add 2 mana of any one colour to your mana pool. Something really close, is there? Although these are always interesting, these creatures. There's several of these that I think crop up in Magic sets over a long period of time. I don't know if it's how common it is where you sacrifice something like a forest. This is probably the one I'm thinking of, is Orcish Lumberjack, and then you get to add sort of mana in various combinations. Drain Life. So when did Drain Life last appear? In 5th edition. It's been kicking around, since original Magic, however you want to think about that. Consume Spirit, that was it. So you can see here it's worse than Consume Spirit. So let's have a look here. So how does it differ? There's quite a lot of Drain Life spells there. And the other interesting thing, so let's look at Drain Life at sorcery speed, because notice it's at sorcery speed. And how do I want to sort this? If I do it by mana value, it can be a little bit misleading sometimes. And we'll do our old friend, his first printing. So Consume Spirit appeared in original Mirrodin. So let's just compare the two. So X1 and a black. I'm assuming if this was created today, it would be maybe more in this format with the X and there, and then this sort of line where it says spend only black mana on X. Maybe, I don't know. Drain Life does. Let's look at the Oracle text actually. That gives us a. Yeah, there we go. Answered it myself. So the first bit, let's just copy this out, because now I'm curious. So that's Drain Life, because we now, it now is the case that the first bit here on both of the cards, when you take into account the Oracle text, would be the same. The casting cost and this clause. So let's look at the difference between the two. Old versus new, if you like. So Drain Life deals X damage to any target. You gain life equal to the damage done, but not more life than the player's life total before the damage was dealt, the planeswalker's loyalty before the damage was dealt, or the creature's toughness. Here it just says Consume Spirit deals X damage to any target and you gain X life. So you don't have those clauses there. Interestingly, here you have Death Grasp, so X white blue deals X damage to target creature or player. You gain X life. This one doesn't care about the type of mana for the X part. And then you've got things like X Sanguinate, so X and 2 black. Each opponent loses X life, so that's each opponent. So yeah, burn any. I mean, that would. It's a bit more of a broader description of the card as a burn spell, which it is. You know, think of it, I suppose, as a black version of a fireball, maybe. You got a number of these types of spells which, you know, drain creatures. So there's a number of spells that might just drain a creature rather than any target, or only do a certain amount of damage. So in terms of Consume Spirit, when was the last time that was printed? Divine versus Demonic. So we were seeing it in sets up until Magic 2012. So I wonder what sort of took over from that. So if I just take that, can I don't think I can just do that. I've never tried that actually. I mean, if I do Oracle like that, obviously I get that. That just comes up. If I do that and don't do the drain, we get a hell of a lot more cards, and that's where our red stuff sort of kicks in. There's our Consume Spirit and our Death Grasp. And then of course we've got things we've seen before like Disintegrate, there's Drain Life. Okay, moving on. Elven Cache, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh yes. Lots of stuff here. I was sort of expecting this. This card was sticking around until 6th edition, but you can see here, so it's worse than Colossal Sky Turtle. Interesting as well. So I'm trying to think of a card when I see this Elven Cache. What do I think of? Does it make me think of probably Recollect, I think, more than anything. So 2 and a green, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So yeah, less to cast, and it's only a single green as well. Woodland Guidance, Healing Technique, Regrowth, 1 and a green. So we've got Regrowth, we've got Recollect. When did they first print Recollect then? Ravnica. Yeah, I remember it from 10th edition. Normally when I see a card I really recognise, I think, yeah, I probably saw that in 10th edition. What about Regrowth? Isn't that pretty... Where's that from? Just see how far that dates back to. Oh yeah. Yep. Interesting gap there. Obviously, I probably considered too powerful. Yeah. It was in the Mystical Archive and the Mystery Boosters and various things like that. Was it in the Heroes and Monsters deck? It's interesting, isn't it? Like how you get... This is a really good example, actually, this card generally. So we've got older cards, which... Let me go back here, which are clearly more powerful. So 1 and a green. Return target card from graveyard. Yeah, okay. Then we got this card. Then we got later cards, which, less to cost, but not quite as cheap as this. Oh, there's one of those. Sorcery. Are these all? There's an instant now. I wondered if there was one at instant speed. There's an enchantment creature. And then of course if we go into regrowth effects, we'll see a whole load of things in different colours. So actually that would be a good one to sort by mana value, ascending. Of course, I've never really thought of Buried Ruin as a regrowth effect, but it's specific to artifacts. Oh, Dredge. Yeah, it's easy to forget, isn't it, how many regrowth type effects are actually on lands. And yeah, no surprise, you're going to see stuff in black that does this. And you got strange things like Death Spark as well. Oh, and of course, and these Misery Charm. Wow. Recall, yeah. Cool. Okay, regrowth, where are we? Recollect, sorry. Oh, dear me. Prosperity, the other part of the naming of the deck. So each player draws X cards, so party time. But obviously you only want the party to occur on the turn that the combo goes off, because otherwise the party could work against you. What form did it take in Portal then? Okay. Turned up in Commander 2013. So we should... Well, we've already seen it, haven't we, in the my flip-throughs. Okay. Yep, group hug. I can see that. Fascination. Similar to... What did that do? Sky scribing. Is that? Draw, yeah. Let's look at these two actually, because... Well, have a look at group hug. This is going to pull up loads of stuff. Let's have a look, see when this appeared. Fascination. X and 2 blue, as opposed to what? X and a blue. Do we get anything extra? Oh, it's modal, so each player draws X cards. Each player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Okay. Mill or draw. Draw or mill. And that... Oh, just Fate Reforged and the Mystery Booster. Okay. And then... this one... X and 2 blue. Each player draws X cards. It's got 4 costs on it. 2 and a blue. Reveal Sky Scribing from your hand. Each player draws a card. Oh, from Dissension. Yes, yeah, I remember the artwork now. I wonder if I opened any of these when I did when I cracked those packs. If anybody hasn't checked out, my pack openings that I did retrospectively, well worth a look, 'cause you see some interesting old cards there up close. I mean, I'm going to be revisiting those cards eventually when I get to the Friday artwork videos, but yeah, if you can't wait, there's a ton of like modern era pack openings that I did sort of back to back several years ago. Yeah, I can see why this would end up in a Commander product. So if I was to focus on that and say, let's just go back one and do... What cards are there where you're simply player draws X cards? Oh, it does help if I do that. There we go. Brain Geyser. Oh, whoops. Yeah, is first. I don't think you can you abbreviate to... No, you can't. That would be really cool if it's just his first. I'd like that. Order of release date. Oh, it does help if I get it in the right order. Brain Geyser, then Prosperity. That's funny, draw X cards, or force opponent to draw X cards. you're going to draw these cards whether you like it or not. Oh yeah, I always love how black cards do card draw. Right, you know, it's going to cost you X life to draw this many cards. Yeah, no doubt we'll see. Yeah, I'm sure as we go through these decks, we're going to get to other combo decks where you're leveraging that in black. The other thing, maybe I do at some point need to jump back further. I see how I feel about doing that, because yeah, there's certain periods in Magic which are interesting to look at where combo just decimated the format. And I know we've got combo winter coming up in 1998, but yeah, other things as well, where just it resulted in everybody playing the same decks because of some interesting synergy. Stamina Wall Pact. Yeah, this is usefully stapled together. And we got repeatable effect here, but you can see it's an XX spell. Oh, there's a Joint Forces card. I always liked the Zeniths. They were fun. Or Zeniths, however you want to say that. I'm feeling very chill right now, as you could probably guess. This is great fun. Hopefully you enjoy the unpredictability of this. Sometimes unpredictability can actually be relaxing. It's like universe take over. Does anybody know where that's a quote from? Universe take over. I've read it in at least one book. Natural balance. Wow. Does anybody remember these as well? Look, this would be the original arena. These oversized league prizes. Oh, by the way, thank you very much to somebody that commented about that set I was having trouble identifying. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, that was really useful. And it got me thinking about that. So that was the cards that came up in a search I did, and they were from Chandelier. I've actually seen people produce in paper copies of those, which is pretty cool. But the reason why I raise that is I think until people started producing proxies of them, the only way you get one of them was as an oversized prize. I think that's right. Yeah. And I actually quite like, that's why I don't always lock down, you know, in certain episodes I've locked down so it only shows paper cards. One of the reasons why I tend to leave it a little bit open is, particularly for these episodes, is it's quite nice to see stuff that was available only in like really early on digital cards that either cropped up in Magic the Gathering Online because of the way they turned up in terms of how they got older sets in there, or in, you know, product like Chandelier. So anyway, what is this? Natural balance, 2 and 2 green. So this is obviously a pretty critical card in amongst all of this in terms of affecting the lands. So each player controlling 6 or more lands sacrifices enough lands to reduce his or her land total to 5. Each player controlling 4 or fewer lands may search his or her library for enough basic land to bring his or her land total to 5 and put those lands into play. Those players shuffle their libraries afterwards. So again, it's a party card for people that aren't already having a party, but it's party police for those that are already having a party. So with this, you can see again with this, like the prosperity card and this card, you just want everything needs to go off in one go, like on a turn. Everything in this deck revolves around a combo, and you're building towards that combo. Now there's obviously certain things that your board state will contribute to, but a lot of what's going on really has to happen on the turn this deck goes off. Now this is, what would you say? This is similar to this word. This is like is it a balance type effect, maybe? But so let me just check this. The lands are coming from where? Each package. So you're searching a library for enough basic land to bring. I suppose shuffle their libraries afterwards. Is that fingers there? Wow. It's pretty creepy. Tutor land basic. How would this be best to think about? Tutor land to battlefield. Okay, I would say that's closes. Again, we've got stuff stapled on here, which is again something you see. I'm more interested in stuff, I suppose, and I vary from episode to episode about this, but so that's sorcery speed. Oh, I recall. Silly me. Okay. Oh yes, crop rotation. And not only these cards, yeah, they're more searching for specific amounts. They're not balancing, or ones that give you, or give your opponent land as a result of getting rid of something else. Okay, that looks scary. Is renewal, nature's law. You can see there's a lot of the classic cards here, like Cadaverous Reach, Explosive Vegetation. Exploding, yeah, Cultivate. Because what we've got to play a check there. That's interesting. Collective Voyage, green. So this is this joined forces, which we've seen before. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana. Each player searches his or her library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. And of course the tempting stuff, tempt with discovery. Each player may search his or her. Each player who searches library this way, search your library for a land card. Again, no mention here of it being less than or better than or worse than anything else. Moving on. Infernal Contract. So, yeah. Interesting, yeah. Card drawing black, which we were talking a little bit about earlier. So this one, 3 black. Pay half your life rounded up, draw 4 cards. I suppose in this particular combo, you're not really caring about your life too much. I was just looking, so if a player life total is 0 or less, that player loses a game the next time a player would receive priority. Okay. Peer into the abyss. Ooh, M21. And Crawl Bargain. Yeah, so this falls under the category of life payment. Squirrel. Oh yeah. Ad nauseum decks. We're going to have to feature them at some point, I think. Oh, of course, Bitter Blossom. Wow, this is interesting, isn't it? Yeah, so like all these things that you can pay life for, or that cost life to be used. Oh, yeah. That one. That's interesting. Oh yeah, these creatures, yeah, that these black creatures that do that. Oh, where's that from? Ah, the dark. How much are they? I need that. I need that. Oh, of course, Carnophage. Oh. And the charm. But so 4 and 3 black. Just because these are. Black. Draw 4 cards. rounded up. So for cool bargain, oh, that was from Portal. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think, where was that from? Vampiric Tutor. Banned in Legacy. Restricted in Vintage. I wonder why. Pay 2 life. Search your library for any 1 cards. Shuffle your library, then put that card on top of your library. What do they compare it to? Oh, of course, Imperial Seal. Yeah, better than Imperial Seal. Yeah. Shuffle your library for a card, then shuffle. Yeah, okay. And Cruel Tutor. Lose 2 life. And just sort of swapping around the ordering, I suppose. So that's 2 and a black. Single black. Cycle 1. That's handy. So EMA tutors from oh no, yeah, I see why. Yeah, okay, let me just do that. It's first print Eternal Masters. Yeah, okay, so that was a one they produced for Eternal Masters, I'm assuming. Yeah, but they've been reprinted since then. So if I do, because this is a weird thing, is that if you get that O tag, I'm pointing this, you can't see me pointing at it, this, it won't necessarily show you the thing, so you then have to, the thing won't show you the thing, you know what I mean, you have to do that. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the 1 CMC tutors, of course. Yeah. Did they all? Yeah, they were spread about a little bit. But there were a lot of tutors in Mirage and the block. Yeah. Emerald Charm. We've already looked at Emerald Charm before. I don't know if there's anything we can relearn extra from this. It was part of a cycle from Visions. You can see it's cropped up sort of later on as one of those like time spiral cards. But yeah. Impulse, okay. Was in Battle Bond, Mystery Booster as well. And better than anticipate. So with Impulse, 1 and a blue, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. Shuffle your library afterwards. So yeah, falling into that card selection area. But what's nice is, you know, you get to also see what's on top of your library, so when that'll help inform any cards which are involved in card draw in the deck. Once you get to a point where you just have absolutely obscene amounts of mana and can get up to all sorts of multiple prosperity shenanigans. So with Anticipate, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them, okay. Shimmer of Possibility, 4 cards, 1 of them in hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. So let's see what it puts as in impulse. Look at the top end cards and put 1+ of them into your hand. Not to be confused with red pseudo card draw effect, impulsive draw. So you can see quite a number of impulse type effects. If we look at the type here, there's our anticipate, and I don't think I saved. No, whoops. Probably someone's going to tell me there's an abbreviation. Is FP or something. Release date. Automatic. Okay. Oh, there we go. Impulse. Oh, fact or fiction, of course. Yes. Worldly Council. Reviving Vapours. There's Flash of Insight. There's Anticipate. Moment of Truth. There we go. What's the black one do? 2 in a black, domain. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Okay. Put up to 2 of them on your hand, the rest into your... You lose 2 life. Basic land types. Okay. That's from March of the Machines. Whistle Harvest. It's an interesting modal spell. Yeah, at a relatively long service. Interesting. What is that? Oh, Ancestral Recall. Memory Lapse, counter target spell, put that spell on top. Yeah, so bounce. Banned in Historic, around right until 7th edition. We've got that artwork as well, which was also in 5th edition. And our friend Homelands, with multiple artwork. So a tuck counter spell. Okay, counterspell by putting on top of its owner's library. So only, that really surprised me. For some reason I thought those sort of tempo play spells are a bit more common than they obviously are. Spell Crumple. Yeah, that did surprise me actually. I wonder if they cards that get reprinted a lot. I think. Well, I suppose we've got. So Memory Lapse was around right until 7th edition. So that's still what, pre-modern. We then get Hinder, which there's a bit more flexibility there as to in terms of where the card can end up. And that, yeah, well, only really turned up in this standard set. Oh, of course, Lapse of Certainty. I love this block. I don't know what it is about it. I think that was actually the only block where I actually read the novels as well. Spell Crumple. This one, yeah, from Commander. Possibility Storm. I'll commit to memory. In a blue. I don't think that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That. So, was there a sort of hole in the Memory Lapse repertoire? Oh, Power Sync. Right up until Urza's Saga. Counter target spell unless that person's additional X, that player draws and pays all mana from lands and mana pool until X is paid. He or she may also draw and pay mana from other sources if desired. Okay. Tapper interrupts. Oh yeah, of course, interrupts. Or a thing. What land tappers do we have in blue? Oh, blue, sorry. Black. Okay, what else can I think about doing if I do Oracle, Controller, spell as opposed to counters generally. What have we got? Interesting. Oh, of course, Mana Leak, yes. Spell Pierce. Huh. Nothing quite like that spell though, is there? I don't think. Looks like there's a few other spells that play around with X. Yeah. Let's rethink there. 3 wishes. So exile the top 3 cards of your library face down. You may look at those cards for as long as they remain exiled until your next turn. You may play those cards at the beginning of your next upkeep. Put any of those cards you didn't play into your graveyard. So you can see how, those, what we've seen already, the cards where you get to look at the top of your library when you've got tons of mana at a certain key point in the game, how useful and how this can be leveraged. So if you know what your library's like, then a strategically played 3 wishes. Yeah. Impulsive draw. It's funny. Cards which you let you cast a card, just use it or lose it. Typically a red card advantage mechanic. Oh, okay. I love how those tags are done, actually, when they give you a little bit of a explanation there. Yeah, lots of red. Eh? Oh, Welkin bottle. Wow. Gin of 3 wishes there. A lot of red though, so if we just screen out the red. That's better. Look at anything that contains blue. Is there anything in black? I'll carve a demon. Oh yeah, the ultimatums. Right. Vampiric Tutor. Which have I inadvertently already looked at this? Yeah. Or maybe not. Yeah, I did already look at that. City of Solitude. So now we're definitely we're getting onto the sideboard cards, which we haven't seen in the, or hopefully we haven't seen in the main deck, unlike Vampiric Tutor. Visions. Players can cast spells and activate abilities only during their own turns. Yeah. So there's obviously in certain matchups helps lock down the board, prevents casting, of which there are numerous cards that do that. Now, interestingly, is that something that you see very often in green? Well, let's find out. And the answer is, it seems to mainly be stapled to a creature, actually. Seems to be the only enchantment. Enchantments generally, if you were wondering, oh, Nevermore, yes, I remember that. Although slightly different, of course. This. Yeah, it's a lot of this, players cannot play a card with the same name type thing. I'm sure we can remember certain cards which can make a player's life very miserable. Elephant Grass. So cumulatives up, keep 1. Green, black creatures cannot attack you. Non-black creatures cannot attack you unless they control. Plays an additional 2 for each attacking creature. So yeah, think about some of the other decks we've been looking at, and the possibility of very fast black decks that might be around in the meta. So obviously if you go up against one of those with a pro Bloom deck, you could be dead before you get a chance to assemble your combo. So yeah, number of cards that prevent attack. Again, we've got this in green. So interesting in that respect. Let's have a look. Ooh, form of the squirrel keeps cropping up. Put the pen down, that's going to get annoying, isn't it? Obscura says how that pans out in the different colours. Oh, nothing in black. Few in blue. Anything in red? Yeah, few. So yeah, mainly green. But yeah, white particularly. And then finally, Wall of Roots. Put a -0/-1 counter on Wall of Roots. Add green to your mana pool. Play this ability as a mana source. Use this ability only once each turn. Interesting, it's the only creature, and it's in the sideboard. So you can probably see various ways this might be leveraged as a sideboard card. Turned up in New Capenna Commander, Arch Enemy. You can see it's been in quite a few, not quite a few, but a few multiplayer decks. It's in Mirage. What do they classify it as? Oh, deprecated power toughness counter. And yeah, I mean there's a ton of mana dorks in Magic, so let's look at this one. And we did speak about these odd power toughness counters before. Oh, of course, Dwarven Armourer. Yeah, so when did that stop? Yeah. Well, and that's no surprise there because, yeah, just of the nature of that. I'm sure I've mentioned about Cold Snap and how it fits into everything. So if you exclude these two, then really was that Weatherlight, which is what, the same block, yeah. Huh. Wow, certainly some old cards here. These always fascinate me as well, not particularly for this, but just, cards that were equipment before equipment was a thing, and how that was done. So put 7+1+0 counters on beast after beast attacks or blocks a creature, discard a counter. During the untapped phase, controller may buy back lost counters for 1 mana. That's a 0/4. I mean 6 to cast, but that looks like fun. What's the cheapest one? 4th edition revised, probably, yeah. So we got what so it's a 6 for what, 7/4. But you keep removing +1/+0s, but you can put them back on. But can't have more than 7. You know, I want to have a look. 102 decks. Do they even recommend a commander? Probably not. Should we do a Clockwork Beast deck at some point? What do you think? Let me know. Let me know. Actually, that I could pre-seed it with all these and see where we end up. Yeah, if it's something you want me to do, let me know in the comments. So, I think this has probably been a very long episode. I was just enjoying myself too much. So, hopefully you are, I don't know if you're any more enlightened now about Prosperous Bloom than when you started. But it's not really so much what it's about. But I thought it was useful to put in an explanation about how the deck works. Obviously what I'll do is I'll include a link to the infamous Pro Tour Paris final, and I'll track down the link that explains very well how the deck works, probably better than I could. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next very relaxing episode.